Hey, in this episode, I have Jeff, Herr, recurring guest, my business partner in Front Street Equity, and we are talking all things Discovery Day. There's a lot of mistakes that candidates and franchisors make in that Discovery Day process, and we wanted to dive into it to kind of give a step-by-step on like what you should be looking for out of Discovery Day as a candidate and as a franchisor. So hope you enjoy the show.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
Yo, welcome back to the show, Jeff. We're talking Discovery Day today. You ready?
Disco Day? One of my favorites.
D-Day.
D-Day, Disco Day, Confirmation Day, Meet the Team Day. I've heard it all.
Yeah, smarter people, much smarter than us, call it Confirmation Day. Even smarter people than them, they call it Meet the Team Day or
Decision Day.
Decision Day, yep. So you don't get the smartest crew today. You get like the old school. We're going to talk about Discovery Day. We're going to call it Discovery Day today because that's what we're used to. But whatever term you want, you know what it is. Jeff, you like to say it's the last domino to fall. Like, how would you describe that? Like the name is one thing, but how would you describe Discovery Day?
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of, I call it the last domino to fall because it really is, it's the end. It's the end of the sales process. Because after that day or two where everybody gets together and you go through, all the different things that we'll kind of talk about today, it really is time to make a decision. It's a time for a franchisor to make a decision whether to extend an offer to the potential candidate to join the family, right? And if they do, then the potential candidate needs to be ready to make a decision, which is, yes, I want to join the family. Or as some people have said before, which I love, if it's not a yes, it's anything else, right? Which is basically like a no. It's binary, right? So we're going to talk about an effective Discovery Day or what we believe to be effective. And after that day or two, that session, that meeting, that whatever, it's time to move forward or not. That's it. That's the only decision to make at that point. Now, there's always going to be some things to finalize, like an agreement or funding, or if they want to make sure that they don't have any final questions around any sections in the franchise agreement, right? Maybe they want some clarification on something.
So we'll get into all of that. An effective Discovery Day, both for the franchisor and the franchisee, begins at the beginning of the sales process. Like that whole process, the franchise development process where they've gone from their first call to booking Discovery Day. There's certain things that should be done by the franchisee, by the franchisor during that time to make it an effective time at Discovery Day. So what does that look like? What should franchisors and franchisees be doing during that process?
You got to have a process to walk a candidate through so that they can really understand your brand and the opportunity, right? Everybody has their version of the process, and some are better than others. At the end of the day, though, I think that if you take every single brand's process, you can kind of break it down into three sections. That's the way I kind of see it. So initially, when you get introduced to someone that wants to learn about the brand, wants to learn about the opportunity, the first section of what we like to call it is foundation, right? Because before you introduce them to franchisees, before you send them a franchise disclosure document, you got to make sure they really understand, even if it's at a high level, like what's the opportunity about? How does it work? Where'd the brand come from? What's the, what are the foundational pieces of the opportunity? So typically most people are going to start out with some kind of introduction, phone call, Zoom call, maybe even in person, right? And the intro call is really just about starting to build a relationship and starting to learn more about each other, and then obviously sharing some information about the brand. Then it's important to kind of go into some deeper sections, right? Something around unit economics, something around sales and marketing, customer acquisition, digital, social, whatever, right? And then something around operations, training, support, technology, just the operational pieces. It's very difficult to do all of that foundation stuff in just one call. I don't think you want to even do that, right? Because if you have a meaningful franchise opportunity, then it's going to be a lot to digest. And you want to make sure that you can break it down into smaller pieces, right? How do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. So you have to deliver that information one bite at a time. So you start out with an intro, then you kind of dive into different pieces on different sessions. And that is what we call foundation. It's like the first section of what we seem to think is, the first of three. After that piece, then you can move into the second stage, which we call validation. First stage, foundation, second stage, validation. The candidate at this point has their bearings around sales, marketing, operations, where the brand came from, where it's going, unit economics. Now they need to validate some of that, right? So they're going to start to reach out to franchisees, right? To talk about, when did you start? How are you doing? Any, Q&A. That could be done in a group format. That could be done one-on-one. I think most brands, if they're working with a lot of candidates at the same time, they're doing that kind of in a group format. But obviously candidates still have an opportunity to reach out to franchisees one-on-one. In addition to that piece, you might start introducing them to some critical people at the corporate level that are going to be a part of their success journey, right? So marketing is a big piece. Marketing, sales, customer acquisition. So an opportunity to bring in, whether it's an outside agency or vendor that you're working with, or some of your leadership team members around marketing, whether that's a CMO or a director of marketing, or maybe a culmination of both, right? It's, once again, bringing people together in a group format to really kind of dive deeper and to hear it from some other people, right? The first part of the process might be whoever is managing the franchise development process for the brand and the candidate. But in the validation process, it's very important that they start to talk to people that they're going to work with on a daily basis and validate some of the things they learned in the foundation piece, right? So whether you put together a group call around sales and marketing or a group call around operations, if you're a brick and mortar brand, maybe a group call with the real estate team or the construction management team. But being able to offer opportunities pretty much on a daily basis for these candidates to keep moving through and gathering more and more information and diving deeper and validating what they've heard, right? This is also when we would recommend sending out the franchise disclosure document, right? As you turn from foundation to validation, sending out the franchise disclosure document. If you want to do an FDD review, that's good. Also diving into group calls, allowing the candidate to engage with franchisees, either one-on-one or group or both. And then once again, group calls around just taking what they learned in foundation and really starting to have conversations with folks that are going to be helping them and supporting them along the way. It's really important in both stage 1 and 2, and of course, stage 3, that anyone that's going to be a part of the business, right? Whether it's a husband and wife, whether it's 2 partners, whether it's a team, whatever that looks like, whoever's going to be a part of building and scaling their franchise business must be a part of this process at all times. Very challenging when you know that there's going to be 3 people involved in the business and only 1 is attending these meetings or 2 are attending these meetings. So whether it's foundation or whether it's group, you have to make sure that anybody that's going to be a part of the decision-making, anybody that's going to be a part of the business is a participant. And I wouldn't move from any stage to the next stage until everybody on that team or group or partnership or whatever it is has been a part of each section, right? So once you've had engagement throughout foundation and you've had engagement throughout validation, and they're really kind of ready to go to the final step, you got to make sure you put checks in all those boxes, then they're ready to go, right? And then we kind of end in, we kind of go into section 3 here. And there's a section 3A and there's a section 3B.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are 2 really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Zs and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my Franchisee Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com. Let's stop before there because you mentioned they've got to check all the boxes. And I think where both franchisees and franchisors get it wrong is there's excuses. The franchisor says, wow, they're financially qualified, or they're more than financially qualified. So I'll give up some, they didn't attend this call or that call, or they didn't do things exactly how we wanted them to, or how they should. We'll give them a pass, or they're not really committing to how they're going to run it. Maybe they're not really saying that they're keeping their full-time jobs, and they're very kind of loose on how much time they're going to give to the business, or whatever it is, but the boxes aren't checked. That's a red flag. Not saying they shouldn't come to Discover Day, but that's something that should probably be addressed like head on at that point before they get invited to Discover Day. And if you are that candidate that is not checking all the boxes, and you should take a step back yourself and go to the franchisor and be like, get real with what you're wanting to do, how you're expected to be in the business, and like, why are you not making all of these calls or doing what you're supposed to do? And, maybe you shouldn't go to Discover Day, or you're not ready, or you're not really ready to make a decision. And so what Jeff said about checking all the boxes before you get to Discover Day, I think is important for both franchisees and franchisors, because, one bad candidate can ruin a Discover Day for everybody else because they're just not ready. They're not prepared. And so they're asking questions that they shouldn't be asking. And so a lot that we could talk about there, but you want to kind of wrap that up and then get into phase 3.
Yeah. I mean, if they haven't checked all the boxes, then I don't think you should be extending an offer for them to come to the Discovery Day or Decision Day or Confirmation Day or whatever your process calls it. You're not, when you're a franchisor, right? Every decision that you make has to be for the betterment of the brand, right? So if you're wondering, should I invite this person because I like the people that I've met so far. I know there's some other people, but I really want them to come. You got to ask yourself, is that best for the brand, right? Or is it better to make sure that everybody that's going to be a part of the business has been a part of every single aspect of the foundation and the validation piece? Like, what's better for the brand? I mean, you can't say anything else than, okay, I get it. Okay, they got to check all the boxes before I even extend an offer to go to section 3, right?
but my spouse is really busy. That's why they've only attended one call and they had a million questions. My spouse, but they're going to come to Discovery Day and they're not going to be super involved in the business. And then they get to Discovery Day and the spouse that hasn't been involved asks all the questions that were answered all along. So nobody's really able to take advantage of Discovery Day because you got one person that shouldn't be there. So that's the kind of stuff that brands just need to kind of, get a backbone and say no to some of these people because they don't know themselves. Like they're just.
You just said the word right there. You just said the operative word, which is need. It's need. This is a needs versus wants world, right? The brand needs you to be able to check every box. You might want them to come, but that's not what the brand needs. And you always have to pay homage to the brand. Everybody in the brand, the founder, the corporate people, agencies and vendors, franchisees, their staff. It's all about the betterment of the brand, period. Always. And every decision made has to be for the betterment of the brand. Got to always pay homage to the brand. So yeah. So once you have been able to check all those boxes, right, then you want to extend the offer. If you still want to move forward with this candidate. By the way, throughout section 1 and section 2, you're going to find out that some of these candidates are just not the right fit, right? So don't keep moving them through the process. On the other side, some people going through the process might realize that the brand's not a good fit and they might bounce too. And that's okay, by the way, that's okay. You want that, right? So you check all the boxes, stage 1, stage 2, you extend an offer to come to an event, right? Discovery Day, confirmation day, yada, yada, yada. And they accept, right? Now, once again, it's everyone that's going to be a part of the business needs to attend, okay? Just like you wanted them to go through all the pieces of the process in stage 1 and 2, everybody that's going to be a part of the decision-making process or part of building the business or signing a franchise agreement, everybody has to attend, right? So most brands are going to have an opportunity for this type of event once a month. If it's a brand that has just a ton of activity, they might speed it up. They might have, 1 or 2 a month, right? 20 a year. And then, and sometimes even if you have a candidate that checks all the boxes and they just can't make a couple of dates in a row, you might even offer an opportunity to kind of do a private discovery night like that. Most brands do that as well, right? So you extend the offer and they accept. Okay, so now you're kind of into section 3. There's a lot of work that you want to do in terms of preparing them for Discovery Day at this point, right? This is an opportunity to make sure that you have a call, one-on-one call with everybody that's coming. Let's set the expectations of what's going to happen and what's going to happen afterwards, right? Let's go through the FDD one more time. Right? Let's try to clear as many things away as humanly possible. Let's fill out an application. Let's get a funding plan together. Let's go through how we think about territory in your area. You don't want to get stuck doing too many of these things after the event. The event is really the last domino to fall. So once they accept the invitation and they're coming, there's going to be some time in between when they accept and when they come, right? Whether that's a day or a week or a couple of weeks or a month or whatever. You got to make sure that you get through the preparation piece, application, if you want to do background checks, credit report checks, funding plans, territory, going back through the agreements. Like let's really set the stage that this event is the end, right? And after that, it's decision time. So that preparation piece, there's multiple pieces in there. We just mentioned them a couple times of what needs to be done so that everybody's truly prepared, right? And you really kind of make sure this is all of these items once again are checking the boxes, right? Checking the boxes before they come. So the things that we just described that happen once you extend the offer to come to the event and they accept all the way until the event itself, I call that like 3A. That's like section 3A. Then we get into section 3B, right? which is the event itself. So before we dive into that, you want to chime in on anything?
Yeah. So like everything that you just mentioned up to this point, I can hear franchisors right now thinking, man, I wish I could say all that with confidence, you know, and I wish I could get all of this set up and have my franchise development person communicate just to the candidates before they come to Discovery Day. And that really be the follow through. Like these candidates really be ready to make a decision, be confident in our sales process up to Discovery Day, be confident in our process at Discovery Day, and confident that after Discovery Day, it's decision time. That's what we do. Like at Front Street, our FSO, our outsourced FSO to our brands, like this is the process. And the Bobby and his team, this is what they lay out. This is why candidates come to our Discovery Day, and they are armed with the information that they need up to the point of Discovery Day. Discovery Day is run, you know, flawlessly, and they are given the information that they need and they want at Discovery Day, and they know it's decision time. And, you know, Bobby and his team are able to ask for that decision and then quickly move forward to either a new franchisee or not. Or like what happened the other day, someone doesn't get approved. And it literally just happened. I think it was this week. Somebody did not get approved. And you as a brand, you can do everything right, but there are things that didn't come out in the process. And you're like, they're probably not going to have the highest chance for success. We're not going to approve them for whatever reason. Jeff, you and I, we've, you know, disapproved a lot of different people over the years, but you know, the better the process that you have, the less of the disapprovals that you'll need. And brands, just let's get real. Just because someone doesn't buy doesn't mean like you rejected them. I see all this stupid stuff on social, Jeff. Like, oh, we didn't approve like, you know, 100 candidates last year. I'm like, no, they didn't buy, you know? Right. So you shouldn't have 100, you know, people that didn't get approved. Like they probably weren't qualified or they didn't even make it to Discovery Day. Right. So that thing kind of gets annoying out there online. So if you're a brand and you're wondering, like, how come some people are not approving 20 to 50 to 100 people a year? They just didn't make it to the sales process. That's real. There's too much of this silly stuff going on out there online and these social media influencers. So anyway, that's my comment on getting ready for Discovery Day and kind of what we do with our franchise sales organization with our portfolio brands.
Yes, absolutely. So should we dive into the day itself or the event itself?
Dude, we are 21 minutes into this podcast, and all of this stuff was important because you need to be prepared to make what we're about ready to talk about a success, meaning at the end of that, it's a yes and anything else is a no. So let's dive into it.
Great. So let's talk about the event itself. Some brands do everything in one day. Most of the time, the brands that we're building kind of break it up over 2 days because of travel, right? So we like to start around 2 p.m. in the afternoon on day one and finish up at 2 p.m. on day two, because if people are coming across time zones, right, you can kind of budget for that.
And this has been done for years, right? I mean, you're kind of the inventor of amazing Discovery Days, and in a way, Jeff, I mean, because you did them at scale. And so you kind of had to figure that out. But, you know, that's the sweet spot. 2 to 2. Is that any time? Is that like, doesn't matter what time zone it is? Because a lot of
doesn't matter what time zone is. Because if it's 2 to 2, then people, if they're crossing 3 time zones, they should be able to, unfortunately, get up at 6 a.m. and get there. But if it's 3 to 3 or 2 to 2 is kind of usually what we do.
What days of the week are recommended or not recommended?
I mean, look, we have a brand now that has a 1-day Discovery Day, and they do it on Saturdays, and it works. So I mean, the answer is whatever works.
So it's not a hard and fast rule, but that's probably the exception because it's working.
That's an exception. I like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think that if you bring,
how do you like that?
Well, because at the beginning of the week you're fresh. I like to avoid weekends because if you only have Discovery Day once a month, people are busy on weekends. If they got kids, they might have sporting games or whatever. So I don't like to, like I said, Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. I don't
And it drains your corporate staff too. It drains your corporate team because they have to be around, and they have things to do. And the other thing, if a candidate can't take off like 2 days, like how are they going to run the business? You can't make it so conducive to them able to make it, where like they're like, hey, I can never. It's like having a candidate that can say, I can only talk at 6 o'clock on the weekdays, 6 p.m.
That's
on
right.
the weekdays. Can you accommodate that? Well, no. How are you going to run your business?
I mean, I like a Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, because you want to have that decision call post-discovery day within 24 to 48 hours after the event.
Say that one more time.
So if you think about this 2-day, like 2 p.m. to 2 p.m. thing, if you go Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, right? After discovery day, you're going to, at discovery, you're going to schedule a decision day call, right? And that should be 24 to 48 hours afterwards. So if you have your discovery days at the beginning of the week, then you can have these decision day calls at the end of the week without having to drift through a weekend, right? Let's cut to the chase here. And so that way, that entire week, you're going to know who's coming in at the beginning of the week and who's joining the family by the end of the week. And that, I like that.
So franchisors, you should absolutely use that timeline. Candidates, you should, be going into this thinking the same thing versus it's natural to be fearful and to not want to make a decision. It's natural, but you need to go into it knowing that you're going to have all the information that you need to make a decision and just make a decision. So that's why this podcast is for both franchisees and franchisors, because, there's a decision that both make. The franchisor makes that decision. Yeah, we like you. We want you. And the candidate makes that decision too, even though they're scared to death. All right, keep going.
Whether it's 1 day or 2 days, it doesn't matter. The event itself, we like to think about it broken down into 2 parts. Okay. So more than likely, you haven't met these folks face to face yet, right? You've done phone calls, you may have done Zoom calls, you've done some group calls, all that stuff, but you have spent time really trying to dive deep on the brand. So part 1 of this event is total brand immersion. If it's a service business and you're using equipment and vans, break out the equipment and vans, man. Like, it's a day in the life of being a franchisee. If you're a brick and mortar brand, go see some locations, right? If you only have one location, go to that location. Whatever your product or service is, right? You have to fully immerse these candidates in that product and service. Some brands have products and services. Immerse them in both, right? Total brand immersion. They just got to lather themselves in the brand. Because at the end of the day, once again, it's about, if you want to do this, every decision that you're going to make, every decision that we're going to make moving forward is for the betterment of the brand. So you really have to get inside there and truly touch and feel it in every way. And it has to be different. I think, if you're a brick and mortar brand that has a product or service, right? The candidate may have a location in their local market and have tried it out and they like it. That is different than fully immersing them from corporate's point of view, right? And so even if they've done what we like to call drive-bys, right? Where they tested it out, or even if it's a service-based business, maybe they use the service. It's not the same thing, right? So we really want to do full brand immersion, get people really in deep so that they can feel the brand, right? Because they got to wear that the brand is the heart, and they got to wear that brand on their sleeve every single day. And so you want full brand immersion, product, service, all that good stuff, right? Part 2 of the event is now getting down into the hallows, the deepest possible level of who they're actually working with, right? If you're a brick and mortar brand, then your real estate team is going to get as descriptive as humanly possible about all processes, right? This is going to be a little bit overlapping of what they heard in section 1 and 2, right? The foundation and the validation piece. But now we're really going to open up the kimono the full way and show them everything about our processes, about everything that's critical to the business at the deepest level possible, right? And it's reinforcing what they heard before, right? But you're also introducing new content. If you've talked about customer acquisition before, now you're going to show them all the pieces that you use, digital, social, print, to actually generate the customers, right? If it's technology and you've given them, kind of a test drive, you're literally going to open up every section of your technology and walk them through that POS, walk them through that CRM, walk them through the LMS, walk them through every single piece, right? So everything that you kind of covered before, you're going to go down all the way. Show them everything, right? I mean, don't think that if you show them everything and they don't move forward, they're just going to do it themselves. It's not possible. It's why people are there to begin with. They want to, but you got to show them everything, right? Now, the one thing you obviously can't do is if you get into unit economics, you can only share what's in the FDD. Clear, right?
Legally. But you can show them everything
legally,
that you can legally.
Show them everything. Like literally,
that's true,
tell
Jeff.
them all
a
the
lot
secrets.
of brands think, oh, they got the secret sauce. If they see something in the ops manual, or we accidentally share this thing or that, like that's not why your franchisees are successful. So I mean, give me a break.
I could hand somebody an architect. Listen, I could hand you an architectural plan. I don't think you could build the house, right? Here it is. Here's the blueprint. Here's the paint by numbers. I don't think Eric Van Horn could do it. I could do it, maybe, but I don't think you could. You got to show them everything. Look,
you couldn't do it, Jeff. You can't even
at the end of the
paint a picture at Hawaii or do a fluid art thing better than me at Hawaii Fluid Art. Like, you can't even do that. So I don't know that you could really do it.
The spectators all voted for me. I had more votes than you. It's true.
That's a lie.
So, but let me tell you why you want to show them everything, right?
Hold on, before you say that, we're the same way at Front Street. You and I were talking the other day about showing the brands that we work with. Let's show them everything. What would we do? Why do we do it? How are we going to help them increase enterprise value in a short period of time? How are we going to help them with franchise development? How are we going to help them with go-to-market? How are we going to help them, with customer acquisitions? Like, what does it look like to be, deep in the trenches advisory? What does our outsourced FSO look like for our brands, and how, and exactly how are we going to help them get to the numbers that we're going to work towards together? And then we're not afraid to talk about, other people in the space doing similar things than us. And we want to show them everything. So it's just, we're practicing what we preach, even with brands that we talk to at Front Street that might be looking at another FSO or doing something with somebody else. Like, we open everything up to them. And what we found is they appreciate that. And that's how we really get to know people. And the same thing with you and your brand. Like, don't be afraid. People are afraid of too much and opening up too much. So don't be afraid of this stuff.
I mean, the reason is look, we're talking business here, but whether it's business or personal,
this is business talk. This is real business talk here.
But business or personal, life is about, building successful relationships, right? One of the core foundational pieces of building a relationship is trust, right? Like, it's never going to work if you don't trust somebody, whether it's somebody you're working with or somebody in your house. Like, it's never going to work out if you don't trust them, right? And how could you expect somebody to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially in a business if they don't trust you and haven't seen everything? Like, duh, you got to show them everything. You have to trust them. They have to trust you. And if you have secrets to tell, like, tell them, get it out. I mean, you just got to do it. You got to do it. There's no other way. It's the only way to move forward. So once again, the event broken down into 2 sections. Section 1, full brand immersion. Section 2 is, building trust by just literally every single core piece of your business. You got to show them everything, right? The reason we like doing it 2 days is those two parts naturally do well when they're broken apart. It's like left brain, right brain, like material. And so I like to do full brand immersion on day one, right? And then you have some kind of social event that night, probably a dinner. And then the next day you do section 2, which is really, once again, showing them the secret sauce across every single business line: finance, operations, marketing, technology, yada, yada, yada. And then to wrap it up, right, when you're in the last piece, it's once again setting the right expectations. You say it before the event starts, right? Even before they come, you say it at the beginning of day 1, and you finish at the end of day 2, reinforcing and setting the expectation. There's nothing else for us to share with you. Nothing. There's nothing. So we need to set a decision day, right? We want you to absorb everything that you learned in the last 24 hours during this event, and we're going to schedule a call. We're going to make the first decision, whether it's we want to extend an offer for you to join the family or not. It'll be a pretty short conversation if unfortunately, if we decide not to move forward. If we decide to move forward, the expectation during this call is that you make a decision. Yes, I want to move forward, or anything else, which is no. And that's okay, right? But it's yes or anything else, right? So then you have that call, you've extended them the offer, they say yes, great. Now you are down to just a few things: setting a closing, making sure that when they sign, they fund the same day. So if they're putting together some funding, they want to make sure that if they have any final pieces of the franchise agreement that they want clarification on, you're good to go. You've already done so much territory work that now you're just putting together the territory or development schedule, and you're moving towards a closing, which if the funding is ready at that point, then that could happen the next day. It could happen the same day of the decision call. It could happen the next day. If the funding is lined up, the moment the funding is lined up, you should be ready to go. So there it is.
That's it.
That's it.
Let's talk about some fun stuff. Like,
great.
Around Discover Day and stuff. Candidate. Haven't done anything. Discover Day is over. I like this. I want to do it. I'm a yes, but there's always a but. I need my attorney to review this, and he's busy for 2 weeks. But I need him to review it. What should a brand say? Or even 1 week. They just think about the attorney review. The attorney review question at the end of the process. I know I was supposed to do this earlier on, but now I want my attorney to review it.
I mean, look, we certainly don't want people signing things that they don't understand, right? And if they made the decision to move forward, then you have to have some grace. You do have to set the tone, though, an expectation that, like, look, we're not changing anything in the agreement. You've said this probably multiple times throughout the process, so you definitely want to make sure that you reinforce that. If there's something that the attorney wants to clarify, then let's have a discussion. But there's no red ink coming on this agreement, right? We believe in favored nations. Everybody has to have the same agreement, no addendums. So we're not going to create a piece of paper that supersedes our agreement. We feel comfortable with our agreement. We've had plenty that have moved forward with that agreement. And we don't ever want to be in a situation where one person's getting favored treatment. Everybody, it's the Three Musketeers, all for one and one for all. So if they come back at that point and say, hey, okay, we'll give you some grace. Now, if we get through that and they're like, well, I got to do one more thing, or, well, I got to do one more, they're not ready. Okay. Yeah. And so
they're not ready. They're not ready.
And if you're not ready, you're out. It's okay. Once again, this is not meant to be punitive, right? We've set the expectations. We've been very clear about what they are. We trust them that when they make a decision, it's yes, they're ready to move forward. The trust, right? So if things just keep popping up left and right, then is it best for the brand to bring somebody in that's really hemming and hawing. They said yes, but it's not really a yes. And once again, if it's not a yes, it's anything else, right? You got to have grace. You want to trust. But at any point where you start to think, I don't know, maybe I'm having second thoughts, you got to run for the hills, right? Your gut's probably right. And you want a partner here. This is a partnership. It's not franchisor, franchisee. It's us. It's we. It's rowing the boat in the same direction. And if you're not even at the point where you've signed an agreement and you're starting to have second thoughts at the end, I promise you that if you do move forward and sign the agreement, this type of behavior is probably going to continue.
So candidates, from your perspective, you're thinking, I'm just going to delay things. I'm going to I'm not going to tell them about the attorney. I know we talked about it before Discovery Day. I just figured I'd wait and I'd push it off until after Discovery Day to buy myself some time. And I got this other thing on funding to buy myself some time. And then I've got my spouse that has some other questions to buy some time. Like, you need to be thinking about it from how you are positioning yourself to the brand. Like, if a brand wants you after just delay, and indecisiveness, that brand, it might not be the right brand for you. They might not have a backbone themselves. They might be bringing on a bunch of other franchisees that are just really wishy-washy through the process. So you might not like it if a brand at the end of Discovery Day and they the team comes to you and like, hey, they give some grace here, but come back to a decision, and they just bring it back to that. You might get frustrated, but I tell you what, like, appreciate that they have a process and they want a decision, and, they're going to be bringing on other people like you, decision makers, executors, people that are going to go after what they want. And, so be thinking about it from that perspective. Don't think, I'm going to one up this brand. I'm just going to delay here. Like, that's probably not a good thing. And you shouldn't go into it thinking about it that way. You might not get approved. Why else do people not get approved, Jeff? Let's talk about some reasons why people don't get approved.
Well, might have to do that on the next one, because unfortunately I'm bumped up and it gets to another call here. But,
it's time. We are on the
it's time.
Hour. All right. This is a wrap.
We'll have to part two.
Part two.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.